Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome. Is this? Am I tripping? There we go. Who else could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine recap, days 1 through 4. So you got to go all the way back to Thursday. And it feels like this has been just the longest weekend when, talking about the combine. But that's because normally I break this into each day chunks. So normally after the first day, I talk about the first day. After the second day, because it's fresh, you just watched it, you want to react to it. But the way that this weekend went, it just wasn't feasible. But I told you that we would talk about all of these prospects that participated in the combine over the weekend and some that did not. And just the combine as a whole, this was the fastest combine as a complete group that we've ever seen since they started recording data and statistics going all the way back to 2003. It's no surprise, and that's kind of where I want to start before we even get to any of the individual prospects, is just the overall overarching theme of this particular combine and where I think it's heading. I think what you're going to see moving forward, and I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, is that you're going to start seeing guys who don't run fast not even bother with even trying to run at the combine. There used to be a time where if you got invited to the combine and you weren't a quote unquote first round pick, you did everything, right? And there was a time even where if you were a top 5 pick, the best quarterback in the draft, one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, you went out and threw. There wasn't even a question of whether or not you were going to throw at the combine. It's funny when they kind of flash back to previous combines and they're showing Josh Allen and they're showing Justin Herbert and they're showing Lamar Jackson and they're showing all of these guys, right, that performed at the combine, that threw. And it was nothing. Those guys didn't even think about it. They just threw. They just went to the combine because it was an opportunity to show off in front of the scouts, show off your abilities. Now, it's like pulling teeth to get a lot of these guys to perform at the combine. And for what? Why? Right? It's set up that way. But I've always been a proponent of, if you're an athlete, if you're a dynamic athlete, and you can run, you have God-given abilities, why not show it off to the world? Why not show off? This platform is for you. They've made this into a TV show for you, for your ability to elevate your draft stock. They've turned this into a showcase for players like you that have the ability to go out and run a 4.3 or 4.4, that can go out and show your ability to leap 43 inches, broad jump 11 inches. This is for you, right? For the guys that can't do those things, it's better to just wait until all eyes aren't on you. You're not in front of a national audience. If you go out and you run a slow 40 at your pro day, the only people that will know about it are the people that are there. Obviously, it'll be reported. We'll hear about it. But hearing about something and seeing it is two different things. So a Makai Lemon isn't incentivized to come out here and run. Why? Because he's not going to run fast. He's not going to run fast. And he knows it. And that's okay, because that's not his strength. That's not what his game is predicated on. And you're going to see more guys opt to do that moving forward. There was a time where Makai Lemon ran his 40, even though he knew he was going to run a 4.58, he ran it anyway. Just like the guy that he looks up to and he patterns and models his game after, Amon-Ra St. Brown, went to the combine and ran his 4.59, 4.63, whatever that number was. That was really disappointing. He went out and he ran it. And if we got to hear this damn story about the 18 receivers that went ahead of him and he's got it written down on a notebook, we got to hear that goddamn story one more time. But that's what happens. right? Because as much as we try to downplay speed, it's a big part of the equation. Some guys are going to end up being better pros than the guys that go blow up the combine, that go run the fast 40, that go jump out of the gym. The guy that runs the 4, 5, 6 is going to end up being the better player. But guess what? When teams evaluate these prospects, if things are even or they're close, they're going to side with the guy with the traits. So what we saw this combine is something that I think you're going to start to see moving forward. These prospects didn't just all of a sudden get faster, okay? They didn't just all of a sudden get faster. What happened is all of the slow guys decided not to run. So that left you with guys that knew they were going to run fast. And so the times at every position group, except for the offensive line, it was the only position group that did not run faster than every other group that has ever been recorded in combine history since 2003. It's the only group that didn't run faster. Every other group ran faster. And I think quarterback might not have run faster. I'm not sure about that. They might have come close, but they may not have exceeded the fastest quarterback class. But long story short, you didn't see as many running backs run. You didn't see as many wide receivers run. You didn't see as many tight ends run. And there's a reason for that. Because if I know I'm going to run a 4.9 as a tight end, what's the purpose of me going out here and running a 4.9? I can do all the on-field drills, spare myself the embarrassment. I'll wait to my pro day. If you're going to run slow, they said something really profound on the that they say it's one of the sayings of a scout. If you're going to run slow, you might as well just do it once. I couldn't agree with you more. If you're going to run slow, you might as well just do it one time. No reason to run slow here and then run slow again at your pro day. You're going to do it once. Do it at your pro day and be done with it. So what we saw was guys that aren't going to be the fleetest of foot decide, nah, I'm good. I went to my pro day. And I'll just throw out some names of guys. Ruben Bain knows he's not going to run fast, so he's going to save it for his pro day. Okay, guy. Peter Woods, probably not going to test all that well. Okay, save it for your pro day, right? CJ Allen, I'm actually surprised that he didn't. He seems like a guy that's going to test well. Don't know if anything's wrong. I don't like to play that game, but you think a guy like CJ Allen, who is poised to be a first-round pick, athletically is part of the reason why he's supposed to be a first-round pick. You thought this would be his type of platform. This would be his type of stage to go out and shine. I was actually surprised that he didn't go out and showcase his skills at the combine. If you go on to look at some more guys that opted not to participate in the combine, I've said this already. Really disappointed at Caleb Downs. He's not going to test well. He knows he's not going to test well, so he didn't bother. Right? When you got all these guys out here running sub 4.5s, sub 4.4s, I don't even need to go out here and make myself look less athletic, even though the tape speaks for itself. And that's the beauty of all of this, right? We make a lot about the combine. We make a lot about these guys running fast times, this, that, and the third. But ultimately, it all goes back to the tape. Like, there's only so much you can take from the combine. Again, the combine is really a cross-reference. That's all it is. That's all the combine has ever been, is a cross-reference. You watch the tape. For me, it's usually my introduction. So I'm usually doing it bass-ackwards, because what you're supposed to do is already know these prospects. You've watched the tape, and all you're doing now is you're checking boxes. That guy looked really fast on tape. Let me see if what I saw on tape was my eyes deceiving me, or is he legitimately fast? A great example of that was the running back out of Arkansas, who ran the 4.33 40. Mike Washington Jr. You know, Dale Jeremiah's like, this guy was blazing fast on tape. I just want to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. He went out, he ran a 4.33. Check the box. That's it. That's what this is for, right? For other guys, there may be a question of, can this guy run, right? Maybe saw some guys get behind him in coverage, not really sure if he's got the speed, but the tape is really good. Just want to know, can he run? That was Chris Johnson from San Diego State. DJ's like, yo, his tape is really good. He's a really good football player. I'm just not sure if he can run. He ran a 4.4 flat. Well, check that box. That's a day 2 pick. That's what the combine is for. And so that's what we saw. Long story short, we saw the fastest. This isn't the fastest class of athletes to leave college coming to the NFL. That's not what this is. That's what the combine may suggest. But all this is what I think the future of the combine is going to be. More guys that can't run or aren't fast, aren't tremendous athletes, aren't going to participate in the running portion of the combine. So it's going to allow this cluster of guys who are extremely fast to time well and push that time up on average. And that's what we saw this year. And I think that's what you're going to see moving forward. With that said, let's go through day one. Day one was the D-line, basically the edge rushers, the defensive linemen, and the linebackers. And I'll just give you a few names that stood out to me. I'll start, and I'm not going to ever beat up a guy for coming out and participating, right? I might be a little disappointed in what he was able to put forth, but if you had the balls to come out and compete, I'm not going to shit on you. The only guys that I'll shit on during this process are the ones that decided I'm not doing it. And again, if you're injured, that's one thing, but if you're perfectly healthy, you don't want to run the 40, that's fine. Do the on-the-field drills. But again, that's their choice. Really disappointed in Ruben Bain, Keem Amezador. And again, these are guys that went to the national championship, and DJ talked about how when you go that deep into the college football playoffs, you don't have as much time to train for this, I guess. Again, I've never gone through the process, so I can't speak to that. You want to be as prepared as you can for all that you're going to be asked to do. So, I mean, it is what it is. But we saw plenty of guys from Indiana come out and go through these drills. We saw other Miami players go through the drills, but that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is they chose to sit out. That's cool. So it gave an opportunity for other guys to shine. And I'm going to just list off a few guys that I thought did exactly that. David Bailey, again, he's a guy that I think he just solidified his top 5 status in this draft. He was already that going into this process. And I think he staked his claim to be the first defensive player taken in this draft. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes number 2 overall to the Jets. I still think Arvell Reese is going to end up hearing his name called as a second pick in the draft, but it would not shock me in the least if David Bailey has catapulted himself into that discussion and ultimately is the number 2 overall pick. He had himself a whale of a day, ran a 4.5 40, ran a 1.6 to 10-yard split. So just to give you a reference point, DJ usually does this. The top 10 edge rushers in the league we're in a 4.55. The average of the top 10 guys who bag quarterbacks in 2025, 4.55 40 and a 1.59 10-second split. That was the average. So he slid underneath the 40 time, and he was just slightly above the 10-yard split. So, like I said, his movement skills were incredible, and he's going to be at 6'3", 5'8", 251 pounds. And there was this discussion, I don't know where it came from, but there was a discussion about his arm length, and then he measured in at over 33 inches in terms of his arm length. He checked off every box, and he looked good on the field. So David Bailey, I think he solidified himself as a top 5 pick in this draft. Romello height, his teammate at Texas Tech, 6'2" and 3/4, 239 pounds, so a little undersized there. Ran a 4.64 40 and a 1.64 10-yard split. I thought he moved well throughout the day as well. The question will be, where does he fit? He's a little bit undersized. Is he just a pass rush specialist? Can he stand up against the run consistently at the NFL level? That'll be something you have to ask yourself. Is he able to put on some weight, sustain that weight, and get a little bit stronger? But he's another guy that can get to the quarterback and, again, show good movement skills throughout the day. Cassius Howe, I actually thought he was going to run faster. Not going to lie to you. Not that he didn't test well. At 6'2" and a half, 253 pounds, he ran a 4.59 40 with a 1.58 10-yard split, which is the best of anybody. So that explosion that we talked about with him, I thought that would translate a little bit more in the 40. But, with the 42, a lot of times as you run further, some guys run out of gas and they start off explosively. And as you go further and further, they run out of gas a little bit. And so I think that's what happened with him, because the 1.58 is what you really care about with these guys, because that's what's going to get them to the quarterback. Cassius Howe has that clearly. The thing about him and the conversation around him and Ruben Bain is arm length. His arms are even shorter than that of Ruben Bain. So that'll be the question mark with Cassius Howe as far as whether he gets drafted in the first round or not. Is our teams willing to overlook the arm length? But I thought he moved well throughout the day. And he's another guy that I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be interesting, to say the least, because even if he's not a guy that's on the field consistently, he still will be a guy that I think can be a rotational pass rusher. And we saw the Seahawks cycling those guys in and out of the lineup. That's what you want, right? I'm going to save my best for last with the D-line. Nadam Tucker of Western Michigan, 6'2", 247 pounds, ran a 4.74 and had a 1.64 10-yard split. He was really good, I thought, movement-wise throughout the day. Thought he was really impressive. So that was another guy that I added to the list. R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma is a name that you'll hear quite a bit as you go through the process. He'll probably be an early second-round pick, somewhere in that second round. He was solid. He didn't really move the needle for me. 6'2" and a quarter, 241 pounds, ran a 4.67, had a 1.64 10-yard split. Now for the guys that I thought were just uber impressive. Grayson Halton of Oklahoma, 6'2" and 5/8, 293 pounds. So he's more of a defensive tackle. Ran a 4.82, which is an incredible time for a defensive tackle. The time for the defensive tackles, a little bit different, obviously. 4.94 40. So he blitzed that, obviously, at a 4.82. 1.7 flat is the 10-yard split time. He hit that on the nose at 1.7. He had a 9.6 broad and a 36.5-inch vert, which is crazy for a 293-pound defensive tackle. So the measurements for the defensive tackles that were the top 10 in the NFL this past year: 6'3" and 5/8, 295 pounds. So he's right in that mix. And I thought he was fantastic movement-wise all day on Thursday. Another guy, so I don't know where this guy is slated to go. I am intrigued as hell. I can't wait to watch his tape. So each of the last 2 years, he's had at least 5 sacks. So that's really good to know that there is some production there. Because this guy, Mason Reiger from Wisconsin, 6'4" and 5/8, 251 pounds, ran a 4.79 40 with a 1.61 10-second split, or 10-yard split, excuse me. So he's right under or right above that 10-yard split. His movement skills were incredible. I thought he had some of the best movements of any of the guys that I saw on day one. That included, the big names that, we were supposed to be watching, the Lee Hunters, who look, his movement skills weren't, like, how some of these times we see these 315-pound guys and they're like big ninjas. That's not Lee Hunter. But I know when you turn on the tape and you watch Lee Hunter, he's a dog, right? So I'm not worried about Lee Hunter at the combine and what he ran and how he moved and all that stuff. Give me Lee Hunter with pads on, right? But this Mason Ryder guy, every drill, he nailed it. Every drill, he was fluid. When they did the drill where you gotta bat the first bag, right? Spin on the second bag, rip on the second bag, the third bag, and then dip the corner and come back around and then hit the quarterback. He murdered that one, right? He was great on the bag drill where you come down, you start on your stomach, you jump up, you go over each bag, you go weaving in and out of each bag, then you push your hands down on each bag, and then you go scoop up the football. They added that new element this year where you scoop up the football at the end. His eyes never left the coach, right? Most guys, when they're doing this, they got to look down and see, where the bags are so they don't run it. His eyes were up the entire time. The feet were moving. I was blown away by this guy. So I'm really intrigued by him. I made a note in my pad about having to go check him out. Because, a lot of times with these combines, there's just a lot of names here, right? You're not going to get to all of these guys. And if they're not one of the top guys, I might take the first 15 pass rushers, watch their tape, and then be done with it, right? He may not be in the top 15 of pass rushers, but I'm going to go out of my way to make sure I check this guy out because he was so impressive athletically. And the production is clearly there because he's had at least 5 sacks each of the last 2 seasons. So there's something there with him. I'm going to go check him out. He could be another one of these Trey Hendricksons or something like that. So I thought he was one of the standouts. And another guy that I thought he was the best of anybody on the D-line on day number 1 was Zane Durant. I thought he absolutely killed it, right? And these Penn State guys, they murder the combine every single year. Shout out to the Penn State strength and conditioning staff because they murder it. I don't know if James Franklin is taking his crew with him to Va-Tech, and all of a sudden we're going to see the Va-Tech guys come in here and start running these crazy 40s, jumping these ridiculous verts and whatnot. But Zane Durant's a little undersized as a defensive tackle, 6'1" and an eighth, and 290 pounds. So, he's not going to be for everyone. But he ran a 4.75. Again, we're talking about a defensive tackle. The number for the defensive tackle position is 4.9440. He ran a 4.75 at 290 pounds. He had a 1.66 10-yard split. The number is 1.7. Okay, so he cleared both of those easily, right? He had a 9.4 broad and a 33.5-inch vert. Okay, and then like I said, he made every drill look easy. Fluid mover. He looks explosive. He looks the part of a disruptive defensive tackle like a Franklin Myers. He looks the part of one of those types of guys that's just going to be constantly in the backfield, blowing stuff up, tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks consistently throughout his career. He looks like he could be a problem. Again, I want to see how long his arms are, that sort of thing, just to make sure that there aren't other deficiencies because he's got low center of gravity. That can benefit you. It can hurt you in the NFL, but I thought his movement skills were off the charts in day number 1, and I thought he was the best of all of the guys that I watched on day 1 along the defensive line. So that was the D line in day one, and the guys that stood out for me. As you go to linebackers, they were also in day one, and they put on a show. I think this is the best linebacker group I've seen in about 5 to 7 years. Every year, it feels like we say the same thing about the linebackers. You better get your linebacker early because while supplies last is what I like to say. You better get the linebackers while supplies last because it's going to run out, and it's going to run out fairly quickly. I don't feel that way this year. And we didn't even see all of the linebackers out on the field. Like CJ Allen, for instance, didn't test at all. So I thought the guys that did run, this was by far and away the fastest linebacker class I've ever seen. Now, again, I told you why that was, right? The guys that aren't going to test well didn't bother running, right? But the guys that did go out and run ran fast. It's the fastest linebacker group we've ever seen at the combine. And it's just a steady diet of 4, 6, and below, right? 4 5s, 4 4s. This was a really good group. I got a few names highlighted here. So Caleb Alarms Orr out of TCU, 6'2", 234, ran a 4.47. Movement skills were excellent all day long. Really kicked off the action. He was the first linebacker to run, set the tone for the group with the 4.47, and then proceeded to then have a really good field work day. So that's a guy that I think helped himself at the combine. Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. So DJ's really high on this guy. 6'4.5", 239 pounds, ran a 4.640, and DJ said he's one of the best coverage linebackers in this draft, and I can tell. He can move, he can scoot. And then the thing that was so impressive, when they did the ball drills, right, where you're either when you're running at an angle, you're dropping into coverage, and then you're coming back to the ball, and you're undercutting it, and you're picking it. He was snatching it out of the air. No problem. You could tell the guys who are uncomfortable in those situations. He was very comfortable. Very, very comfortable being in space and attacking the football. He looked good. And DJ said he thinks he's going to go in the second round. And I see nothing to refute that after watching him on the field. As I continue through the linebackers, these last 3 are household names at this point, or should be at least. And they killed it. I'll start with Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech, 6'1 3/8", 231 pounds. He's a turnover machine. The question with him was, could he run? You know, we've seen guys have remarkable college careers. They're everywhere, and then they run a 4.78 or 4. I forgot the name of the linebacker. I'm thinking of him. I can't think of his name. But he ran like a 4.91 or something. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? So the question with Jacob Rodriguez was, can he run? He just needed a solid time. He didn't need to murder it. He just needed a solid time. And then he went out and he ran really well. A solid time for him would have been 4.65. And you'd have been like, okay, cool. I can deal with that. With your production, with your ability to see it and diagnose and shoot your gun, and your playmaking ability, forced 7 fumbles last season. Not to mention he had like 4 interceptions to go along with, or I think it was 4 or 6 interceptions, something like that. I think he forced 13 turnovers or created 13 turnover opportunities last year for Texas Tech, for the Red Raiders. A 4.65, a 4, anything sub 4.7 would be just fine. He ran a 4.57. That's excellent for his skill set. And another one of these guys that just clearly comfortable in space, clearly catching the football, getting his hands on the football. He's not fighting the ball. He doesn't look like a fish out of water. He looks like a guy that is comfortable in space attacking the football. He had an outstanding day. I think he solidified himself as a day 2 pick for sure. If there was any question, I think those questions were answered. And then you got the 2 Ohio State studs, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. What more can I say? Arvell Reese at 6'4" and an 1/8 at 241 pounds, running a 4.46. He was, I mean, that's he is a freak. Him and Sonny Styles are freaks. And for these guys to go out and compete the way that they did, Styles going out and doing just about every single drill at 6'5", 244 pounds, running a 4.46. Both ran a 4.46. Styles with a 43.5-inch vert and 11.2 broad. We talked about this already. Just freaky stuff, man. I mean, this is some cyborg made in a laboratory type shit that we're seeing here from Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles in particular. Styles had the most to gain because Arvell Reese was going to be a top 10 pick anyway. He's going to be a top, more likely than not, 5 pick. Before all of this, you know, Arvell Reese was pretty much, if he would have ran out and ran a 4.55, Arvell Reese was still going to be the number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5 pick in the draft, more likely than not. To go out and do what he did, he solidified himself as the second best defender in this draft, potentially. Sonny Styles blew up the combine, though. Like, he was the combine MVP if there was one this year, right? His workout on the field was sensational. The testing numbers were through the roof. He set multiple combine records for his height, weight, for the position group. Again, the things that he's able to do athletically is unfair, uncommon, and unfathomable for a guy his size. So he's one of the most intriguing players in this draft because of what he could become. He's just scratching the surface. He just made the transition to linebacker. He's still a puppy at the position. So when you talk about guys that move the needle, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese are 2 of the bigger names on the defensive side of the football in this year's draft class. And they went out and proved it. And I love the fact that they went out and they competed. So that was day 1. So you go to day 2, it featured DBs, so corners, safeties, and tight ends as you transition to the offensive side of the football. We start with the cornerbacks and safeties. So I already talked about being disappointed that Caleb Downs didn't perform. Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee, he claims he's been cleared and has been cleared for over a month now and still wants more time. Hey, when you're coming off of a major injury and you feel like he hasn't played football in over 450 days, take as much time as you need, bro. I'm not the one to tell you when you should or shouldn't. So he's going to take the extra time until his pro day, and hopefully he goes out and kills it. But he's supposed to be a first-round talent as well, but we didn't get to see him. I was really looking forward to seeing him because I've heard so much about him, his talent, and how he would easily be the best corner in this draft class if he were healthy. I just wanted to see what it looked like. I was robbed of that opportunity, but again, I can't be mad at someone for doing what is in their best interest. Those were the two guys that we didn't get to see in the secondary that, really came in with a ton of fanfare. Was really looking forward to seeing what those two would look like. At least, do the on-field drills. I knew Caleb wasn't going to run the 40. That's cool. Also, Mansour Delane. I thought he would go out and at least do the on-field drills. He did nothing. So another guy that I was really disappointed not to see on the field in any capacity. But just going through the list of guys. So for the safeties, the number is 4.5 flat for the top 10 safeties in the league, statistically, 6'1", 200 pounds, right? For the corners, top 10, 6'3", 196 pounds, running a 4.39 40. So as you can see, cornerback is one of those rare positions where traits matter the most. We love to talk about speed don't matter, this, that, and the third. At certain positions, you can get away with that. You cannot at cornerback. You have to be able to run at that position in particular. So Bud Clark out of TCU, 6'1", 188 pounds, ran a 4.41, which is tremendous for a safety. He looked good. Bud looked real good. Can't wait to watch some of his tape, because if his tape is anything like the movement skills he displayed during his field drill, then I would assume that he's going to be a guy that comes off the board in day number 2, because he looked really good. Dalen Everett from Georgia, 6'1" and a quarter, 196 pounds, ran a 4.38 40. I just remember him from the bigger games in college football. When Georgia was participating, he always seemed to make a play. That's all I ever remember with him. So I've got to watch the tape to see if there's consistency issues. Why are we not talking about this guy more? Because from a traits perspective, he's got everything you're looking for. He can run, he's got length, he's got size, he can make plays on the football. So is there an issue there with consistency? Is he handsy? Got to figure out all those things. But from an athletic traits perspective, he checked all the boxes. He looked really good, performed well, caught the football, transitioned well, in and out of breaks. I thought he looked good. Same could be said for A.J. Halsey. This is a guy that a lot of people love in this draft. And after watching him, I know why. 5'11" and 5'8" safety, 215 pounds, ran a 4.53. This is a guy, and on social media, they were saying that his build reminded them of Landon Collins. That is a great comp from a build standpoint. He looks just like Landon Collins in terms of his stature. And I think he plays, faster than Landon Collins, with a better awareness of where the ball is going, attacking the football, coming downhill. He'll hit you. He tested well. Like the 4.53 for, again, you don't see 215-pound safeties anymore. These guys are built like corners now. I just told you that Bud Clark is 6'1", 188 pounds. He's probably going to be more of a safety, right? So you see these corners and you see these safeties, and they kind of look one and the same now. So when you see a 215-pound safety that's built like a mini fridge, that's a throwback to what safeties used to look like but he still attacks the football like one of these smaller corner-like safeties, but he'll still hit you with that 215-pound frame. So I thought he checked all of the boxes. Did Halsey. I think he got a chance to be a really good one. I really do. Colton Hood out of Tennessee, 5'11" and 5'8", 193 pounds. Ran the Moses Malone 4.44 40. And I just thought he had a really strong day all the way around. Movement skills, catching the football, tested well. I just thought he just checked every single box. Everybody wants to talk about his teammate that was across from him before the injury, and all Colton Hood did was go out and show everybody that, hey, don't forget about me. Know y'all love my teammate, and y'all want to keep talking about McCoy. Don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. I thought Chris Johnson out of San Diego State had a really good day, ran a 4.4 flat. I thought he did a lot of good things throughout the day, caught the football really well. Had a couple of drops, but outside of that, I thought he moved well. And DJ said that the tape was really good, so he'll be someone that I'll be interested to check out. Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina. He's super intriguing. At 6'1" and 3/8, at 210 pounds, running a 4.4 flat. DJ says he's going to be one of the better nickels in the draft. At 6'1", 210 pounds, a nickel? What? If he can play outside too, the versatility that he could bring in NFL defense is staggering if he's as good inside. Because I've said this a million times. Inside ain't for everybody. It takes a special individual and athlete to play in the slot. There's no out of bounds to save you inside. The receiver has a four-way go. Inside, outside, right? Up the field, can come back to the quarterback. There's so much space for you to have to navigate. There's no help. There's no boundary there that you can utilize to help you. At 6'1", 210 pounds, you telling me he's a nickel? Look out. Look out. He looked good. Really good. Really, really good. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who has been a name that has just kept coming up over and over again. The Toledo safety, 6'3.5", 201 pounds, ran a 4.5 340. He looked good. He looked as advertised. I think DJ thought he was going to run a little faster, but when it was all said and done, he did everything he needed to do. And at 6'3.5", 200 pounds, this 4.5 340 is all right with me. I got no issues, especially when you tell me that this guy has the ability to see it and go much faster than slow. His anticipation is off the charts. So he's going to drive on the football and get there. That's going to turn that 4.53 into a 4.45. He could be a problem. The amount of safeties in this draft, staggering. Like I said, I think you can come away with some really good football players in this draft. I'll tell you a guy that I thought I would be more impressed with that I wasn't. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a good football player, because I actually think he's going to be a good football player. Was D'Angelo Pons. I thought he'd run. First of all, he didn't run, which was a little bit interesting, I'll say, because he's an undersized corner, so the thing you need to be is fast. He's so explosive and twitchy. He jumped out of the gym. I think he jumped 40-something inches on the vert, had a really good broad. So I expected that to translate to him being able to run fast. He's an undersized corner at like 5'8". So everything that I saw on tape, because I watched quite a bit of Indiana, And he was out there fighting, right? His former high school teammate, Jeremiah Smith. We know the difference in height between the two of them, right? Jeremiah Smith is this behemoth 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver, and Pons is like 5'8", 5'9", and he's out there scrapping with him, holding his own. And you can see the vert. You can see him getting up. So I thought he'd run well, and then I thought he'd catch it well. I didn't see any of that. A lot of drops. He just didn't seem to be locked in. Again, doesn't mean he won't end up being a really good player. He didn't seem like he was locked into me. Then we get to the best of the best. And I have all of these guys highlighted that we're going to talk about here to finish up the defensive backs. We'll start with Dylan Linemen of Oregon. 6 foot and an eighth, 201 pounds, ran a 4.35 40, 41-inch vert, 10.5 broad. Yikes. I was told that this guy was going to blow up the combine, and he did not disappoint. He is a first-round safety. He caught almost everything. He moved extremely well. There isn't anything that he can't do. He hits. He catches the football. He moves extremely well. He's got speed. He's got the requisite size you're looking for. I'm afraid he's going to end up somewhere I don't want him to end up. He's not going to end up on my favorite team. That's for damn sure. Man, he looked good. Man, he looked good. Speaking of looking good on the field, how about Lorenzo Styles Jr.? What is in their DNA? Wow. So, bro goes out the day before and runs a 4.46, jumps 43.5 inches, and an 11.2 broad at 6'5", 245, basically. And then little bro says, all right, I got you. 6 feet and a half, 194 pounds, used to be a wide receiver. Now he's a safety. Runs a 4.27 40. And when I tell you he blazed the drills, he blazed the drills. Okay. Athletically, him and his brother don't miss shit, bruh. Nothing. I don't know, like, again, much like his brother, they both transition from different positions, so they're a little late to the party. So they're just scratching the surface of what they could ultimately be. Someone's going to draft Lorenzo Styles Jr. just off the strength of height, weight, speed, and saying, look, even if he's raw, we got a lot here to work with. This is what the combine's all about. Because I don't know if anybody knew he was going to do what he did. And I don't know where he was slated to go before this. But yesterday's draft evaluation and draft stock is not today's draft evaluation and draft stock for one Lorenzo Styles Jr. I don't know if anybody helped themselves more in day number 2 of the draft than Lorenzo Styles Jr. Another guy that I thought was effing lights out. And another brother at that. Avion Terrell out of Clemson. a matter of fact, he was one of the guys they went to commercial break on. So I never actually got his measurements. I'm going to look it up right now because he was really impressive. Like, I had no idea. I had no idea that AJ Terrell had a brother, let alone a brother that was this good. He might be better than his brother. And you know, a lot of times, little bro is usually better than big bro because you learn from your big brother, you watch him, and then you learn from his mistakes, or you just train better and more effectively and efficiently than big bro. And so you're usually like, you see it all the time. It's rare that big bro, I won't say it's rare. It's more often that little bro is better than big bro. So usually that's usually the case. You know, let's see what let me write this down. So he is 5'11", 186 pounds. He did not run a 40. So we don't have that. He jumped 34 inches on the vert, which is solid. And he had a 10-3 broad, which is really good. So bench press 17 reps. He had himself a day. There's no other way to really describe it other than he had himself a day. I was as impressed with him as I was just about anybody. There was only one guy that blew me away out of this group, and I saved him for last. But Avion Terrell, he looks like he's like that. And again, it's just on-field drills, but I think DJ had him as one of his top 20 players in this draft. I think he was 21 on DJ's board, something like that. So I don't think he's that far off. I don't think I'm far off in thinking that if, again, another one of these guys that if the tape matches up to what I watched on the field, oh shit, this guy has a chance to be really good. So yeah, I wanted to dismiss him, like, but he just kept showing up and he kept running every drill. He kept killing it. And I just kept saying, "What the hell is this guy?" And then finally, I'm like, Terrell, Clemson? Is that AJ? And then as soon as I said it to myself, they said it out loud. That's AJ Terrell's brother. I'm like, shit, okay. Bloodlines run deep. Bloodlines run deep. So the guy that blew me away, I have no idea what he is. I don't remember watching him, and I watched Texas play quite a few times. But I can't wait to go watch because he had the best on-field work of anybody that I saw on day number 2 in the secondary was Malik Muhammad. Texas corner, 6 foot, 182 pounds, ran a 4.4 240. His field work was pristine. Caught everything. And I remember DJ saying, this is a guy that will high point the football, go up and get it. And you know the drill where they backpedal, they turn the other way, they baseball turn, they get out, and they got to go high point the ball. These guys struggle with this. Every year I watch guys struggle with high point the ball. They can't gather. They don't know how to jump. My dad always, every time we see this drill, my dad always says, you know who the best? I'm like, boss, you tell me this shit every single time. Every time somebody make a play on the ball like that, you know who the best I ever seen do that? Yeah, I always let him talk his shit because I knew who he's going to say. I always act like he ain't tell me this 150 times. Sean Taylor, man, your boy was so good at this, man. He leap off of 1 foot, go up and get the ball. Yeah, boss, you told me 15 million times. I know. You know how many guys struggle with high point in football? They can't gather. They can't come under control and go up and get the ball. Malik Muhammad. And DJ said this before he had ever attempted to go up and get. He's like, this is one of the guys that will go and get the football at its highest point. You put a football up there and he's like the receiver, he's going after it and he'll go get it. And then I watched him do that several times. And then you watch him in the W drills, right? Back pedal, plant, go. Back pedal, plant, go. Drive, snatch the football out of the air, right? You just watched all of his movements. They were fluid. He caught everything. He looked so comfortable. Nothing looked too, hard for him. Everything looked easy. Everything looked easy. He's someone that I definitely can't wait to go watch. Can't wait to go watch him. I thought he was the best defensive back that I watched in day number 2 of the combine. Then you wrap up the second day of the combine as you finally cleared all of the defenders and transitioned to the offensive side of the football, the first offensive group of the 2026 Scouting Combine, the tight ends. They wrapped up day 2, and the top 10 tight ends in the league this past year, 6'4" and 5'8", 246 pounds, ran a 4.61 40. So this is the fastest tight end group that we've seen since they started recording the statistic back in 2003. Again, we know why. I've already explained. All of the slow guys decided not to run for the most part. Tennessee's Miles Kitselman ran a 4.91. Do you know how many of those we usually get every year at the tight end? You get like 3 or 4 guys that are just blockers. And DJ will tell us when they step up to the line, this guy isn't going to be running a bunch of 40s. This guy isn't going to be known for catching the football. His money's going to be made, putting people's dick in the dirt. He's going to be blocking people for a living. He didn't say that very many times because there won't a bunch of those dudes running because they didn't bother to run, right? So he was the only one. Like, if you ran in the 4.7s with this group, you kind of were an outlier, right? I'm staring at a bunch of 4.6s, a bunch of 4.5s, and then the athletic freak that exists in this draft, and Kenyon Sadiq at a 4.39, and that's basically where I'm going to go. I'm just going to talk about him, Eli Stowers. There are a couple of other guys that are pretty interesting. Jack Indries of Texas, Josh Cuevas of Alabama. I've always liked him. I think he's got a chance to be really solid. Dallin Bentley of Utah is another guy that I thought did some good things and ran well at 4.63. Max Clare, I thought he was going to run out of Ohio State. Used to go to Purdue, transferred over, and just kind of got caught in the wash at Ohio State with all the talent that they had. He didn't get as many opportunities to catch football. I thought Tanner Kozel would run faster. He was really good at the Senior Bowl. He was a guy that stood out at the Senior Bowl, so much so that Commanders fans started talking about him as a late round pick. And I thought he might run faster. He didn't. He ran a 4.71. Doesn't mean he won't be a good tight end. A lot of the tight ends that we love in the league ran 4.7s, right? So don't want to dismiss a guy. Jake Ferguson is a great example of a guy that got pushed down a bunch of draft boards, even though super productive in college, because he didn't run well. Then he ended up being really good in the NFL. So you don't want to dismiss guys. Eli Reardon, I'm a little bit biased here, Notre Dame tight end. We usually produce really good tight ends. He never flourished into the guy that he could have been. He was obviously in an offense that featured this past year a freshman quarterback, so it wasn't an ideal situation. I think there's more there than meets the eye. But Kenyon Sadiq and Eli Stowers are the main attraction of this group. Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3" and an eighth, 241 pounds, ran a 4.39 40. The fastest time at the combine for a tight end. He was tied with Vernon Davis at 4.4 flat. And then I think that was the case. I think he was tied with Vernon at 4.4 flat. And then it came back in. A lot of these times initially were 1/100th of a second higher. And then when it came back with the official time, it was 100th of a second lower. So if you ran, like, for instance, if you ran a 4.5 flat, when it came back officially, it was a 4.49. So there are a lot of guys that were pissed because you always want to get that 10th of a second, right? You want that number to change. So if it's a 4.4 flat, you struggling to try to get that 4.39 because a 4.3 looks so much better than a 4.4. And a lot of these dudes are pissed off because they see the number and then officially it'll come back and it'd be that 4.39 that they were looking for. And that's what happened with Kenyon Sadiq. It was initially a 4.4 flat, and then it came back as a 4.39. He had the 11-1 broad, the 43.5-inch vert. He murdered it, man. Like, and he didn't do any on-field drills, didn't need to after. He had a purpose, he had a mission. Come in, blow it up athletically, and leave the rest of the tight ends in his wake. And that's basically what he did. Same with Eli Stowers. He came out just to pretty much showcase that I'm a pretty damn good athlete myself. At 6'3" and 3/4, 239 pounds, ran a 4.51, had an 11.3 broad and a 45.5-inch vert. It just felt like he was going to run a sub 4.5 with those numbers, but even the 4.51 is still super impressive. And I just remember because I watched on Netflix, they got this SEC show, right? It's like a reality, not reality show. That's not the right phrase. It's like a documentary, right? They're following the SEC programs, like 6 or 7 different SEC programs throughout the 2024 season, not the 25 that just passed, but the 2024 season. And Vandy was one of the schools that they followed in the SEC. And Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers were two of the guys that they highlighted when they were doing the Vandy program. And because those two lived together, right? They weren't, I wouldn't even call it roommates, even though that technically that's what it is, but they had their own place that they shared. And they're like the best friend. They're like best friends. And that's how I was introduced to Eli Stowers. So I already knew about him and I knew athletically how good he was. I remember him killing Alabama in that upset when they beat Alabama 2 years ago in 2024. So I knew about Stowers and he did not disappoint. I think this has a chance to be a really good group of tight ends. And I could see us 3 years from now talking about this group as, producing, 3 or 4 Pro Bowlers, 1 or 2 All Pros, that type of group. It wouldn't shock me. Anyway, thought this was a solid group overall. So that was day number 2. Now we go to day 3. And day 3 is the showcase day, right? It's quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. Used to be formerly quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. They switched it, and now the running backs who used to run with the defenders are now a part of this day and this showcase day. And I'll be honest with you. This is not a great running back draft class. I'm not blown away by very many of these guys. As a matter of fact, I only highlighted 3 guys. I am intrigued by another 2 of them. And then there are some guys that didn't do anything that I probably have some work to do, like Noah Whittington. DJ loves him. And last year when DJ told me he loved a guy and he worked out at the combine last year, I discarded him because he didn't test well. And I was like, I'm good. It was Woody Marks. And Woody Marks turned out to be a damn good running back for the Houston Texans in his rookie season. So I'm not going to dismiss DJ when he tells me that he really loves the guy, even though I don't think he's going to test all that well, which I don't think Noah Whittington is going to test all that well. But I'm still going to check him out because I didn't do it with Woody Marks last year and I regretted it. So I just don't think this is going to be a great class, though. It's an average group, but I think the cream of the crop, the top of this class, has a chance to be really good. So I'm intrigued. I'll just give you a couple of names. I didn't highlight them, but I'm intrigued by them. Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest, 5'9" 3/4, 188 pounds. So obviously he's a change of pace back. Ran a 4.37 right out of the gates. He was the first running back to run. Fastest running back group we've ever seen since they started recording. Again, most of the guys didn't run, and you know why. So the guys that did run knew they were going to run well for the most part. And so the lowest 40 time we have of all the backs that ran, 4.56. That's the lowest time. So that tells you that guys that knew they weren't going to run, guys that knew they were going to run a 4.62, guys knew they were going to run a 4.7, didn't bother to run. I prefer it that way, by the way. So Claiborne, I want to see, can he catch the football? You know, does he offer anything other than just being a change of pace? If he can catch it, if he's elusive, all that good stuff, he could be interesting. Eli Heidenreich, right, out of Navy, 6 feet, 198, ran the Moses Malone 4.44. They said that he is basically a slot receiver at running back. So if that is in fact the case, then he could serve a purpose as a guy you can throw it to out of the backfield, split out, use him as a mismatch. So he could carve out a niche for himself in at 4.44, at 6 feet, 200 pounds, he could be a problem. So he ended up in the right place. You give him to a Sean Payton or one of these coaches that knows how to draw it up and isolate a running back and get him some, you know, opportunities to catch it, and he could be a big problem, right? Another guy that I don't have highlighted, but he actually surprised the shit out of me. Jam Miller out of Alabama. I watched Jam Miller, and I know he was banged up this year. So I probably should not have put as much stock into it, but I thought I knew Jam Miller. I said, okay, Jam's going to be a 4.54 guy, 4.55, 40 guy. You know, he'll be all right, but yeah, nothing to write home about. And then Jam Miller at 5'10 1/4, 210 pounds, right? Which is a really sturdy back. Most of these guys are 203 pounds, 196 pounds, something like that. He 210 pounds. He ran a 4.42. That opened a lot of eyes, including DJ. DJ was like, oh, because I think Jam's first 40 was like 4.47 or 4.48 or something like that, 4.49. And DJ was like, oh, that's a good time for him, right? I said the same thing. Like, oh, shit. Okay, Jam. Jam. Oh, Jam. And then he came back on the second one and knocked it down to 4.43. And then when the officials came out, it was 4.42. I said, well, shit, Jam. You just opened some eyes. He's had some health issues, so that's something to keep an eye on with him. But that was a really good day for Jam Miller. That's an important number for him, I think. Seth McGowan out of Kentucky, 6 feet and a quarter, 223. He was one of the contrast backs of this group, meaning he was much bigger. Like it was him and one other guy that I'm going to two other guys. So it was 3 of them in total, but one of them didn't do any on-field drills. McGowan did. He ran a 4.5 flat. He also jumped like 42 inches, 43 inches on the vert and had like a 10, either 11 or 10 vert or some craziness. So he tested really well. Another one of these big physical Kentucky backs. I think he's got a little bit more juice to him though. So that's another interesting name. You're looking for a bigger back in this draft. Adam Randall was interesting. 6'3 3/8, 232 pounds, running a 4.5 flat. He's a former wide receiver turned running back. And then it was a funny moment because they were running the Texas route or the angle route, right? So this is where you have the cone maybe positioned about 5 to 7 yards diagonally of the running back where he's lined up. Probably maybe about 3 yards up, another 5 or 6, 7 yards over to the right. And all you do is you run to that cone at an angle, and then you sharply break it off over the middle of the football field. We see the most dynamic receiving backs run this route all the time. Probably the best one in the league right now running this route is Jahmyr Gibbs. On every 4th down that the Lions have inside the red zone, you best believe they're running an angle route with Jahmyr Gibbs, and you better be prepared to stop it. And if you go too heavy on that angle, he'll break it out and run an out route. So it's an option route, really, and it's usually the angle, because on those types of routes, you want to go to the middle of the field. There's no help there. So it's a staple for any running back. If you can catch it out of the backfield, running that Texas route, that angle route is so important. And Adam Randall ran the Texas route twice, and he dropped both of them. And he had a pretty rough day catching the ball. And Charles Davis said, well, that's probably why they transitioned him away from wide receiver and made him into a running back. But he's a big guy, man. 6'3", 232 at the running back position is crazy. Running a 4.5 flat. That is wild. So he's interesting, if nothing else. But I did not highlight him because he didn't have a great day necessarily. But the 3 guys that did have days, I'll start with the guy that didn't actually do any on-field work, but his 40 time, he was the guy seen crying on the sidelines after he ran his 40. Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas, 6'1", 223 pounds. That is a sturdy back at 6'1". You know how I told you I love my upright runners, right? And I say that tongue in cheek. I don't want guys running the football upright. I want you running behind your pads. I just say that because anybody that's 6 feet or taller at the running back position is a big back. Generally, low center of gravity backs win in this league, and the vast majority of running backs in this league are 5'11", 5'10", 5'9", etc. 6 foot backs, they get shitted on a lot of times. And so 6'1" is huge at the running back position from a height perspective. 223 pounds. I just told you, most of these guys, I'm staring at 203, 209, 202, 196, 198, 188. You know, 223 is a bigger back in this league. 4'3", 340 is blazing fast at the running back position. Everybody wants one of those. Not even Jeremiah Love ran that fast, right? And we think he's the most dynamic, back in this draft. But Mike Washington Jr. has something to say. And Daniel Jeremiah said, look, on tape, this guy looked faster than everybody else. He's in the SEC. It's not like he's playing in the Big Sky Conference or something, right? It's not like he's playing against Boise and Colorado State and Utah State. He's in the SEC. He's playing against Georgia. He's playing against Bama. He's playing against, Ole Miss. He's playing against Texas A&M. He's playing against these teams that have NFL players and NFL athletes. And he's the fastest guy on the field. And then he went out and ran and looked like the fastest guy. It was the fastest guy on the field. 4.33. I would have loved to have seen how he moved. Is he stiff? Does he have movement skills? Can he catch? I don't know who this guy is. So I would have loved to have seen if this was a complete package. He can catch it. He's got moves. Because Jeremiah Love, I know what he is. I know he can catch it. I know he can jump over guys. I know he can spin. I know he can make guys miss. I know he can get skinny in the hole. I know he's got the agility. I don't know anything about Mike Washington Jr. I would have loved to have seen it, but the speed, if nothing else, speed, you can't teach it. I'm intrigued, and now I have to go watch him. I have to go watch him now. Jeremiah Love, we talked about him. Where is the love? Where is the love? Jeremiah Love is, I'm convinced. I went to sleep last night upset because I realized he ain't getting a 7. There's no way he's getting a 7 to the Commanders. Somebody's going to take him. I think it's going to be the Titans. When you look at the rest of the top, 5 teams, the Browns aren't going to take him. The Raiders aren't going to take him. So that leaves basically 3 teams in there because you know that the Raiders aren't taking him at 1, you know the Jets aren't taking him at 2, and you know the Browns aren't taking him at 6. So there's 3 teams that could take him, 3, 4, and 5, right? I don't think the Giants would take him, right? I feel like Cam Scatterboo was their guy. So I don't think they would take him. So that just leaves Arizona and the Jets, or the Titans. And I don't think Arizona would take him. I think they like Trey Benson, even though he got hurt last year. I think they like Trey Benson, and I don't think they're looking to – they got other pressing needs. Then there are the Titans. And they traded for an edge rusher so that they could feel more – they could be more comfortable not taking an edge in this year's draft, at the top at least. I think that's why they traded for Jermaine Johnson. So they could convince themselves you're doing the right thing. Because if you don't trade for an edge, now you got to draft one. But now that you've traded for an edge, they're going to go out in free agency and spend money, right? They're going to go get them a receiver in free agency. They still have Ridley, right? They still have Ridley. They're going to add another receiver. They got a few young receivers that played well last year. They're going to take Jeremiah Love. I was hoping in my mind, and I tried to convince myself that they got Tony Pollard. They got Tajay Spears. Ain't neither one of them stopping them from taking Jeremiah Love, man. And you know this, man. They're the team. They're the one that scares me to death. We'll see. I think the Cardinals probably take an offensive lineman, if I had to guess, offensive lineman. If the Cardinals if they decide that Trey Benson isn't good enough or he's a good number 2 back, then he could also be in play at 3 for Arizona. But he ain't getting, long story short, I don't think Jeremiah Love's getting a 7. But, man, is he good. 6 feet, 212, 4.36, 640. Caught the football well, ran well, tested well. He looked like the best back in the draft. But coincidentally enough, he did not look like the best back during the field drills. He didn't look like the most comfortable back during the field drills. The most natural looking running back was his teammate at Notre Dame, Jadarian Price. Jadarian Price. 5'10" and 5'8", 203 pounds, ran a 4.49, which is a great time for him. He was they were a dynamic 1-2 punch. Most of the games Notre Dame won this year was because of their run game with those 2 guys in the backfield. They did the heavy lifting. Like I said, we had a freshman quarterback, and we won a lot of games because of the ability to run the football. And Jadarian Price was outstanding on day 3. I thought he was the best. He tested the best of any of the backs on the field in the drills. He looked the most fluid. It looked effortless. He caught it better than anybody. The ball hit his hands. It stuck. There are a couple of catches with Jeremiah Love where the ball, it didn't stick in his hand, but he still caught it, which is the most important thing. But, Jadarian Price, it looked natural, snatching it out of the air. He just looked polished. Everything he did looked fluid and polished. He's going to be really good in the league, I think. Really good. And so it's never happened before that the first 2 backs in an NFL draft come from the same school. It's never happened. There's a chance it could happen for the first time in NFL draft history this year, as I could see Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price being the first 2 backs to go in this year's draft class. So he looked excellent. Somebody's going to get themselves a really good football player. He would have started in most places. He just happened to be behind the most electric and dynamic back in all of college football. He would have started on most teams in college football. So that was the running back position. So you continue on with day 3, and we'll go to the quarterbacks real quick. I'll breeze through this. So no Fernando Mendoza. He checked in at 6'4" and 3/4, 236 pounds. He's going number 1 overall to the Vegas Raiders. So he didn't do anything. But then I think this has a chance to be an interesting draft. There's a bunch of interesting guys, I will say. Ty Simpson, let's start there. He's the guy that had a chance to separate himself. And I actually think he did that today, or yesterday, rather. I thought he threw it really well. He looked good. He looked the part. 6'1" and an 1/8, 211 pounds. So there were 2 different groups of quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, let me do it this way. I'll do group 1 and then I'll do group 2. Group 1 consisted of Drew Aller, Carson Beck, Luke Altmaier, Jalen Daniels, the UConn quarterback, Taylon Green, and Haynes King. That was the first group. The second group was Cade Klubnik, Morton from Texas Tech, Nussmeier from LSU, Diego Pavia, and Ty Simpson from Bama. Those were the notable names in group 2. So group 1, I thought that Carson Beck looked the best of all the quarterbacks throwing the football. Drew Aller was a very, 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 very close second. I'm intrigued by Taylon Green, the Arkansas quarterback. You know why, okay? 6'6", 227 pounds, ran a 4.36 40, jumped 43.5 inches on the vert, and 11.2 on the broad. The first thing that I thought is, you're going to end up being an NFL wide receiver, and you just don't know it yet. But he wants to be a quarterback, and he deserves the right to do the thing that he's trained to do his entire life. And this is the only way he sticks at quarterback, if he finds a way to make himself useful in other ways as a quarterback. I don't see him developing all of a sudden into this prolific passer and all of a sudden a dynamic NFL quarterback. He's inconsistent. You saw it at the combine, right? You know, where the ball would sail on him. He was spraying it all over the place. There would be times where he'd drop back and he'd let it rip and it would be pinpoint accurate. And then another time it's 3 yards out of bounds or it's 4 yards over the guy's head. And so he's just, you know, I think there's a lot that he has. He's raw, right? But I think he's a receiver. He just doesn't know it yet. So he's intriguing because he's a more athletically gifted version of Joe Milton from a couple of years ago. You know, and Milton, the biggest difference is Milton wasn't the athlete and he was much bigger. Joe Milton, like 240 pounds, right? A big guy. We'll see what happens with Taylon Green. Who takes him? Does he continue to develop as a quarterback, or is he going to find out eventually that, you know, if I want to stay in the league, I need to go ahead and stop playing and make this positional switch? And Charles Davis, to his credit, went to Taylon Green after he blazed the 40 and all of the other, you know, athletic exploits he put on display by jumping and testing, which is why a lot of these athletic quarterbacks don't do it at the combine, right? Because if you show the scouts that you're that fast, that explosive, they want to see you catch the football. Now, can we run you through these drills? Remember, they tried to do the shit with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar was like, hell no, I'm a quarterback. I'm not doing that shit. And so Charles Davis went and asked him, like, has anybody approached you about doing wide receiver drills? And he was like, no. He was like, if they did, would you do it? And he was like, no, I'm a quarterback. Bet. I can respect that. Haynes King, on the other hand, 6'2 and 3/8, 212, ran a 4.46. If you watch Georgia Tech, and I don't know why I watched as much Georgia Tech football as I did this past year, but I did. I remember the game when they played against Georgia. They should have beat Georgia, had them boys on the ropes and let them off the hook. I just remember watching Haynes King, and he was out there playing like Tebow, right? Running, you know, taking hits, lowering his shoulder. And, you know, I just feel like he could be like a Taysom Hill type. Now, he's not 6'5" like Taysom Hill, but he's got the athleticism that Taysom Hill does. And I think there's some value in a Haynes King. And DJ said, look, he's tough as nails, which he is. He said he's going to be covering kicks for somebody this year. You know, I don't know if he's going to stay a quarterback is basically what I'm telling you, but he feels like he could provide some service and some value to a team at some position. I don't know what right now, because I don't know if he can catch or do any of that stuff. But if he can play special teams and tackle, I would assume you can find a place for him on your roster somewhere. But Aller, I think people forget. I know I do. I know I did. That Aller, he was an interesting quarterback before he got hurt. I'm not a Drew Aller fan. Let me just say that. I never was smitten by his play at Penn State. I always thought he was basic, but there is talent there. And he showcased that today or yesterday. And I really believe that if he gets in the right situation where he can continue to develop and he gets an opportunity, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being a solid NFL starting quarterback. You know, they comped him to Joe Flacco. Like, that's the high side. If everything works out for him, he could be a Joe Flacco type. I could see that. I could see him because he's a little bit more athletic than Joe Flacco ever was. But I could see him, you know, turning into that. Carson Beck, man, he's a big kid, bro. I didn't realize Carson Beck was that damn put together. 6'4" and 3/4, 233 pounds, man. He's a solid dude. And he threw it really well. I was impressed with Carson Beck. They were booing the draws off of him too. At first, it was funny. Then I started to feel bad for him after a while because I thought they was gonna chill. Like, first couple of times, they booed him. Whatever. Then I was like, okay, they gonna chill out. They booed him pretty much for about 80% of his dropbacks yesterday. I was like, God damn! All right, ease up on the kid now. I say that, but how old is Carson Beck? He might be a grown-ass man at this point, about 24, 23, 21 years old. Well, anyway, I thought he handled that well, and I thought he threw it well for the most part. So he's interesting. I think he has a chance to be the third quarterback selected. I think he has a chance to be the third quarterback taken in this draft. I think him and Drew Aller made a great push for that. And as we get to the second group of quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik, look, I'm going to be honest with you. So these are the names we're going to talk about. Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Diego Pavia, Ty Simpson. Those were the headliners of the second group. Start with Cade Klubnik. I'm not a Cade Klubnik fan, never have been, probably never will be. And so I am biased when it comes to Cade Klubnik. Don't talk to me about Cade Klubnik. You know, he had every chance to be really good at Clemson, and he just wasn't. That said, Cade was throwing that bitch yesterday. Okay. Everybody wanted to talk about Ty Simpson, and for good reason. He threw it well yesterday. All of these dudes really threw it well. I thought if we were ranking them, Simpson was 1A, Klubnik was 1B. Slightly behind them was Garrett Nussmeier at 2, and then Diego Pavia was last, all right, of that group. And he wasn't terrible, but he was clearly the least of that group. Cade Klubnik was firing that bitch. And, you know, it's like they were overlooking him because they didn't expect anything, just like I didn't expect anything from him. But I'm glad Charles Davis towards the end was like, quiet as kept. Cade Klubnik is out here having himself a day. And I was like, you damn right, Charles. He is. And I'm glad you said it, because I kept saying it. I kept waiting for DJ, or I kept waiting for Rich to be like, yo, Cade Klubnik is out here having himself a day. And they just kept glossing over Cade Klubnik, and he just kept stroking that joint. No pause. And he just kept stroking it. No pause. And then eventually Charles Davis was like, yo, Cade Klubnik is out here hitting these dudes in stride. And I thought he had himself, and this doesn't change anything. The tape is what it is. I just thought he showed well in front of the scouts on a big platform and a big stage. That's all. Simpson, I already said this. I think he solidified himself as the second quarterback to be taken. The real question is, did he do enough in the meetings to win a team over to make himself a first-round pick? Because the performance on the field, and he'll have another crack at it at his pro day, was good enough to be taken in the late first round. Question is, at 6'1" in the eighth, with some of the tape, especially on the back end of last season, and the limited amount of starts, is that second round? Does that all combine to make him a second round prospect? Or is the upside enough to slide him into the first round? We'll see. I thought Garrett Nussmeier, this was a guy that going into last year, and this is why I hate these conversations about, oh man, this guy's going to be this and this guy's going to be that, and preseason All-American this and preseason favorite for that, because a whole season has to take place. And I can't tell you how many times a guy has come out of nowhere. Jaden Daniels did it in 2024. Joe Burrow did it in 2019. We see these guys come out of nowhere. I don't want to say Zach Wilson came out of nowhere in 2021, but he sort of kind of did. And then you got all these guys that are supposed to be this and they're supposed to be that. And then the bottom falls out of their season and they turn out to not be what you thought. Case in point, Garrett Nussmeier this past year. Another case in point, Arch Manning this past year, right? So Nussmeier was supposed to be that guy. He was in the running to be the number one player taken in the draft. And then he just had a rough go of it at LSU. I thought he threw it well yesterday, really well. And kind of reminded people of why he was, so heralded going into last season. I think he's positioned himself to be the fourth quarterback taken. So right now, you've got Fernando Mendoza coming off the board at number 1 overall. I think Ty Simpson can sneak into the first round. If the quarterback the Giants took last year can sneak into the first round, Jackson Dart, Ty Simpson can sneak into the first round. After that, I think you see Carson Beck go sometime in the second round. And then I think you see Nussmeier go in the third round. And then I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Aller went in the third round as well. I don't think Taylor Green goes in day 2. I know Charles Davis threw around the idea of someone being really intrigued by him. He's still a day 3 pick to me. So those were the quarterbacks. As we transition to the receiver position, again, fastest wide receiver position in combine history since they started taking the statistic in 2003. I'll give you some names of guys that I was a little disappointed in. And again, this doesn't change the fact that these guys are probably first-round picks in the case of Tate and Boston. But Denzel Boston out of Washington didn't run the 40 because he wasn't going to run fast. And again, I'm not mad at him for that. But he knew he wasn't going to test well. So why go up there, run this 4.58 when all these other dudes out here running 4.37s and 4.4, flats and shit like that? I don't need to make myself look stupid out here. But you're supposed to be this big physical receiver with these strong hands. Then go catch the damn ball. He had more drops than anybody on the field yesterday. He dropped at least 5 balls yesterday. It's really frustrating. He had a rough go of it. Doesn't change the fact that he'll probably hear his name called in the first round, but it was a rough day for him. Same thing with Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. Hometown guy, right? The crowd was going crazy for him, or any Indiana player for that matter. And he didn't run the 40 because he wasn't going to time well. Cool. He came out, he did the drills. I appreciate that. I told you I'll never shit on a dude who comes out and does the drills. But he didn't catch the ball. Him and he and Boston are supposed to be two shorthanded receivers, and Elijah Surratt and Denzel Boston both dropped the football. Way too much for my liking. And again, that's not who they are. That's not who they are. And I don't think that's who they're going to be. But they just had a rough go of it. Carnell Tate ran the 40 and 6'2" and a quarter. So he's got some height, 192 pounds. The tape suggests he's going to be a burner. So he's going to come out, run a 4.4 something. That would be the end of it. And then he would go do the rest of his stuff at his pro day. I don't know if he thought he was going to run faster and then he didn't. But if he knew he was going to run a 4.54, I don't think he would have run. So I think he thought he was going to run faster. I expect him to improve on that time at his pro day. And we're going to hear, oh, Carnell Tate ran a 4.47, anywhere from a 4.46 to a 4.48 at his pro day or some bullshit like that. He ran a 4.54, then he ran again and ran the exact same 4.54. So he may not, and I told y'all this yesterday. I said, somebody was like, I'm really disappointed in Carnell Tate. I'm like, I'm not, because I didn't have him on the level of all of the other Ohio State receivers that have come out over the last 5 to 7 years. I didn't have him on that level. So I wasn't super disappointed. And he's still going to be a good receiver, but he ain't he's not the rest of those dudes, right? And it's not like Jackson Smith and Jigba ran a 4.48 because he didn't. He ran like a 4.52 or something like that. You don't have to be blazing fast to be a really good receiver in this league. See Puka Nacua. See Jackson Smith and Jigba. We see this all the time. But I still don't think he's on that level. I don't think he's as good as Olave coming out, Garrett Wilson, or Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've been on the record of saying that already. So I'm not disappointed like everybody else was. I did think he was going to run faster than that. Right. So let's get to some of the guys that I thought were impressive. So I'll make this very, very quick. Antonio Williams of Clemson, 5'11 and a half, 187 pounds, ran a 4.42. Top, let's see, did he give us receiver numbers? He did not give us receiver numbers. So he didn't give us receiver numbers as to what the height, your weight, 40 time, all that stuff was, but ran a 4.42. And then I thought he caught just about everything out there. He looked fluid, good movement skills. I want to watch him. DJ said he gave a lot of people problems on tape. Antonio Williams did. So I'm going to go watch him, and he had himself a really good day. I'll give you a couple of interesting names. I was a little disappointed that Jordan Tyson didn't do anything, but him having an injury history, I just assumed he had something wrong with him and just got to wait till the pro day. So I wasn't overly upset for a guy that's oft injured, but I would have loved to have seen him go out there and do something, right? See if there are any other names. Omar Cooper Jr. didn't do any on-field work, but I think the biggest thing for him was, could he go out and run a good time? And he did that. You know, similar to me talking about Jam Miller, I was a little bit surprised because I didn't think Omar Cooper would run this fast. At 6 feet and an eighth, at basically 200 pounds, he ran a 4.42. Same thing Jam Miller ran. Super impressive. Because he's got all the other boxes basically checked. So that was a really big 40 for him. Bryce Lance, the younger brother of Trey Lance, 6'3 and 3/8, 204 pounds, ran a 4.3, 4.40. He reminds me a lot of another North Dakota State wide receiver that plays for the Green Bay Packers. Similar size. I think he was 6'4", 215 when he came out. So he's not quite as big, but similar speed though, right? And he was solid. He had a couple of drops, but he's an interesting guy. Deion Burks was a blazer. He ran the 4.3 40 from Oklahoma, jumped 42.5 inches on the vert. So DJ said that he played bigger. He was like weight wise, because he's basically 5'10", and he said he thinks he was playing around 190. He tested at 180, but he thinks he might have, took some weight off to run a little faster, but he thinks he played at around 190 at Oklahoma this past year. So if that's the case, that's pretty good. But he ran a really fast 40. Caden Wetjen of Iowa is interesting. Let me get his numbers because they went to commercial break on him, and I didn't actually get the numbers on him. So let me do that right now. Caden, let's go to Iowa. It'll make it a lot easier. Let me get his numbers real quick. So this guy is interesting. Caden Wetjen is an Iowa receiver, and I'm about to tell you. Lord have mercy. This is from last year. Let me go to this year's draft. All right. Yikes. Let me see. Combine. There we go. There we go. All right. Now, combine tracker. And now we can get all of the information we need. So let's see where Mr. Wetjen is. Here he is. And he tested, he 5'9", 193 pounds.
A century ago, our founders made a promise.
Ooh, that scared the hell out of me. 5'9", 193 pounds. 35-inch vert. He had a really good 3-cone, 6.95 3-cone, but all of that shit checks out because he had 3 punt returns and a kickoff return for a touchdown in 2025. Led the nation, tied for the most returns in the nation with 4. So he has an elite skill set and trait right out of the gates coming into the league that he can return kicks for you. So I thought he moved well, thought he caught it well, and he comes already with a trait that's elite out of the packaging. You just open it up, no batteries, necessary. That's already included. All you got to do is open up the package, turn him on as a special teamer, and he can help you right away. So he's intriguing as well. But also, let me talk about a couple more guys that are intriguing real quick. Zachariah Branch from Georgia, 4.35 40. I thought he did some good things throughout the day as well. So another guy with some real speed that could be dynamic. Jeremy Bernard, I am not a massive Jeremy Bernard fan out of Alabama, but he tested better than I thought he was going to. Much like Jam Miller. 6'1 1/4, 206 pounds. He's built like a running back. 206 pounds, ran a 4.4 940. And I think DJ said they put his numbers in the machine and it spit out DJ Moore. I can see that because remember, we talked about DJ Moore back in the 29. I think DJ Moore was the 2018 draft, if I'm not mistaken. When he came out, we were talking about DJ Moore at Maryland catching a bunch of hitches and bubbles. What you think Jeremy Bernard caught? A bunch of underneath stuff, used him like a little running back. They did the same thing with DJ Moore at Maryland. Just get it in his hands because he's so dynamic as a runner, runs like a running back when he has the ball in his hands. That's how I felt about Jeremy Bernard. I didn't think he was going to run this fast. Jumped to 10.5 broad, which is really good. That was surprising. He was solid too. He was solid on the day. But let me talk about the guys that stood out to me. All right. And the first guy, and I don't know what it was about these big, tall receivers during the draft or the combine rather, but they stood out like a sore thumb. They stuck out. I'm going to start with Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. 6'4", 206 pounds, 4'4", 240. Had one of the best catches of the day. He was running down the field on that that post corner route, and I forget who threw it, but it was behind him, and he reaches out and grabs it, kind of does a pirouette and brings it in, and it's just a gorgeous catch. He caught everything, man. And he looked smooth. Like normally guys that are that 6'4", they look mechanical and robotic, right? There's no fluidity to them. He looked smooth, man. Ted Hurst, his stock is climbing. He killed it at the Senior Bowl. He's killing it here. It's just continuing to ascend, right? He's checking all the boxes. He had himself a very, very good day. Another guy that was impressive, another taller guy. This dude, I mean, you know, when you go to these, when you talk about these bigger schools, it just feel like they be hiding guys. Colby Young out of Georgia. And again, I'm not a college football buff, and Colby Young could have been a beast for Georgia for all I know. I just don't feel like I heard about him. And I felt like I watched enough Georgia games that I should have known. So I got to talk to Rico about Colby Young, and he can give me the lowdown on this guy and what he is. But at 6'4" 3/4, 218 pounds, running a 4.4 940, he caught everything. And when I say everything, the ball was all over the place, and he was catching everything. I was blown away by Colby Young. Every time he stepped up and the ball was being sprayed somewhere wacky, he went up and got it, turned his back, jumped in the air, reached behind him, went down low. He caught everything. He caught everything. And he ran a really good 40, sub 4.5 40 at his size, almost 220 pounds. Yeah. I want to see what his deal is. And then I want to watch and see if there's something to him, because I saw a guy that has the type of movement skills that could easily be a problem at the NFL level, right? You can't teach what he has. And I was so impressed with his ability to pluck the football outside of his frame. And he's 6'4" with longer arms, so he's got this ridiculous catch radius, and I was seeing it on full display. It was really impressive. Colby Young was one of the better receivers on the field yesterday. But the guy, I thought, okay, Makai Lemon, I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought Makai Lemon struggled a little bit. I thought he struggled a little bit. And, you know, DJ was like, oh, when he's getting the ball thrown to him, it's not accurate. And that's not wrong. A lot of his balls weren't as accurate, but I saw guys making catches on inaccurate throws. That's what you're supposed to do. Make the quarterback right. And then there were some ones where I'm like, if you are the dog you say you are, you're supposed to catch that. And he did it. He didn't have the type of day that I was looking for from him. He didn't run because he knew he wasn't going to run fast. But I appreciate him coming out and doing the field drills. So I got to give him some respect for that. But I didn't think it was a great day for him. You know who had the best day? And I'm not being facetious here when I say this. He had the best day of anybody at the combine the entire weekend. Jacoby Lane. So everybody want to talk about Makai Lemon, but it was his teammate and fellow wide receiver that I thought stole the show at the receiver position. You know, I'm hard on receivers. It's my favorite position to evaluate. All I keep hearing about is McCollum. Well, he wasn't quite a lemon. It worked, right? The car worked, but he wasn't that far from being a lemon, was Makai yesterday. But you know what Jacoby was? He was driving in the fast lane. 6'4" and 3/8. I know you guys saw the picture of those two standing next to each other at the combine. It looked like Wemby taking a picture with an NBA point guard. He's 200 pounds. He ran a 4.47. So he just checked a bunch of boxes. And when I tell you he caught everything, it didn't matter where the ball was. Jacoby Lane caught it. Diving passes, too damn high, way behind him. He killed the gauntlet. They sent me Makai Lemon's gauntlet. He dropped the first damn pass. How you gonna send me this gauntlet? He dropped the first damn pass. Yes, the dude throwing it was left-handed. And a lot of people dropped that first pass because that ball had different rotation. I don't care. You know the old rule, if you ever played receiver, if the shit touch your hands, catch it. Now, the rest of Makai Lemon's gauntlet was pretty damn smooth, okay? All right? He had one that was way up here. He snatched the bitch and didn't stop. He didn't break stride. And he kept it straight down the line. But Jacoby Lane's shit was effortless. And it was flawless. And his day was effortless. And his day was flawless. And he caught everything. And he looked the part of an NFL #1 wide receiver. I can't wait to go watch the tape. And I know I'm going to watch a lot of it because I got to watch Makai Lemon anyway. So I know I'm going to run into him. But I can't wait. He had the best day of any player the entire weekend, if you ask me. Now, again, I'm not talking about from a testing, blowing up the combine. We already know. We talked about Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese and those guys and what they did. I'm just talking about from a performance standpoint. Well, Sonny Styles also did field drills, right? He didn't just run and jump. But this was so impressive. This was so impressive. I got to see if it matches. Because if I was an evaluator and I went in and I was thinking, oh, Jacoby Lane is basic, after watching him, I might have to go back and watch again just to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. Because he was so good yesterday. He was so good. I can't wait to watch. This is why I'm so glad that I don't know about these players. So I don't have the bias. Because I'm human. You have a bias. If you watch a guy and you think he's trash, you go into the process saying, oh, okay, it's just Cade Klubnik, man. I don't care about Cade Klubnik. He's ass. And then Cade Klubnik was out there throwing that bitch. And I was like, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, yo, shit, who is this Cade Klubnik dude? He kind of nice. I know the truth, though, because I watched him. I'm kind of glad I don't have that bias. Let me find out for myself, right? This is my introduction to Jacoby Lane, and it was a good one. They say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Well, he made a hell of a first impression on me, and now I want to see what the tape looks like. And, DJ got me hyped because he was like, because he made at least 3 highlight reel catches at the combine yesterday. And DJ said his tape is littered with those types of catches. You could make a highlight tape out of just his catches from 2025. That's all fine and dandy, but highlight catches and consistency are 2 different things. And I just got to make sure that the numbers check out and that he's playing with a really good receiver. So clearly he probably wasn't the #1 option, but did he do his job? Did he do the things that he's a bigger framed guy? Does he block? Like these are things that I just want to see, right? I walked away the most impressed by him. And then, so that was day 3. Then you get to day 4. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the offensive line because I don't have it, bro. I ain't got it. Right. I watched the offensive line, top 10 offensive linemen, offensive tackles. You're looking for a 175, 10-yard split. Interior offensive lineman, you're looking for a 173, 10-yard split. All right. So look, there were a bunch of guys that stepped on the field. Nobody really blew you away athletically. This ain't that type of draft, to be honest with you. The reason I hate it is because usually when you have elite tackles, them boys come out and they showcase for you, right? Like Gray Zabel, for instance. When you got an elite offensive lineman that go in the first round, you usually see it. He come out. Peter Skoronski, I remember the year he got drafted, and I'm not saying Peter Skoronski has been all world in the NFL, but he identified himself as the best offensive lineman in that year's draft class. I think he went top 10 to the Titans. I think he went 9th overall, if I'm not mistaken. And he looked like it. He came out, he tested well, he moved well, and he looked like the best offensive lineman in the draft. Generally speaking, that's what offensive linemen do. When Penei Sewell came out, he went out, he blazed the combine. He looked like the best offensive lineman in the draft. He looked like a guy you're supposed to spend a top 5 pick on. And he went out and he proved it. They keep telling me about Maigoa and all of these other dudes, the dude from Penn State, and ain't neither one of them dudes do nothing. Because athletically, they not like that. I don't think this draft is like that at offensive line. The one guy that I saw on day 4 that looked the part was Spencer Fano out of Utah. And I think he might be slightly undersized, probably going to have to kick inside the guard. 6'5.5", 311 pounds. I think he might have shorter arms. It might be the knock on him because at 6'5.5", 311, that sounds like fine, height and weight for a tackle, which he was at Utah, but they making it seem like he might have to kick inside. Whatever. 4'9", 140, 172, 10-yard split, which checks both boxes, whether he's inside or outside. That clears both bars, right? And he was the most easy mover of the day. He was the one guy that looked like he has a chance to be elite at the NFL level. And again, I don't like to overdo it with the offensive line because it don't got to look pretty, man. It don't got to look pretty. I just know when dudes are elite athletically and they like that as an offensive lineman, they go out and they show it. You know what I mean? And so the fact that some of the better guys in this draft weren't willing to do that tells me that they're not probably really like that. They're good, and they have a chance to be good in the league, but they're not elite. I don't think they're going to be elite. I don't think this draft is for that, right? I know I'm going to mess his name up, but this dude from Arizona State that came from Nigeria, came over to Compton in high school or whatever, this Max Iheanacho, 6'6", 321, ran a 4.91 with a 174 10-yard split. He looked pretty good too. He looked pretty good. And DJ said he's been getting better and better at every step of the way. He started out at this level, then he got better in 2025, then he came to the Senior Bowl, got better as the week progressed, came to the combine, and he's just continuing to get better and better. He's a guy that looks interesting. Another guy that looked interesting, another dude that looks like, and I think they said he's a first-round pick, is Monroe Freeling out of Georgia at damn near 6'8", 315 pounds. He moved really well throughout the day too. 4'9", 340, but the 10-yard split was 172, so he checked the box there. And they said he's a first-round pick, and I'm like, damn, he feel like a Philadelphia Eagle. Like a guy that they would take to be the replacement for Lane Johnson. Lane said he's coming back, but this is probably it for Lane. That's the type of shit the Eagles would do. Draft this dude in the first round, stash him. They got 2 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. Spend one of them on a dude that ain't even going to play this year. Or if he do play, it'll be at a different position. And then next year, kick him out to right tackle and then keep that offensive line intact. There were a number of other guys that they talked about that, because DJ has already said this is a pretty deep interior offensive line draft class. And he, being that the Commanders released their center, Tyler Biadasz, I'm on high alert now. So when you start talking centers, my ears are like, doop, 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 doop. You said a center that can start? He mentioned a few names. I ain't seen nothing, but again, I ain't watched these dudes on tape. So he mentioned about 4 guys that he thinks can start, and I believe him. Sam Heck out of Kansas State was one of them. The running joke on the dude from tennis from Florida, Jake Slaughter. I don't know if you've seen a picture of this guy, but they sent me a picture of this dude, Jake Slaughter, talking about how he doesn't want anybody touching his quarterback. Somebody said, they want me to believe that this dude is a 23-year-old NFL prospect. That's a lie. He's a 50-year-old with 3 kids that teaches high school biology. He looks like he's about 48 years old. And he does look like he teaches high school biology. Like, for real. He looked like a grown-ass man in his mid to late 40s. Crazy. But DJ said that he looked like he could start. Jake Slaughter out of Florida is a guy that he thinks could be a starter. I think there was one more. I think Bo Stevens might have been another plug-and-play center that he says he thinks could start at the NFL right away. So, yeah, I wasn't blown away by this group of offensive linemen. I'm going to keep it a buck with you, but they were going crazy over Jennings, Dunkers, but that's the type of shit they do. His mullet. So yeah, these offensive linemen didn't really move the needle for me. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I digress. All right, let's get to any comments that you guys may have, and then we'll get out of here. He says the Eagles don't have 2 first-round picks. Oh, good. I hope they don't have 2 first-round picks. If they don't got 2, they got 5 second-round picks then. Because I know they got some extra shit in the tuck. I know they gave away one of their 3rd-round picks to Miami for the edge rusher, but they stay strapped. So if they don't got 2 1s, they got 2 2s. If they ain't got 2 2s, they got 6 3s. But they got extra shit on top of shit because they always stay with some extra shit. But that's music to my ears. If they don't have an extra first-round pick, good. I hope you're right. I think they do got an extra first-round pick, but I ain't sure. Jorn, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Thank you for being a member for 47 months. Salute. Writes, imagine JD5, J Love, Terry, and Bill on, sign me up. That would be ideal, but I don't think Jeremiah Love's getting to us at 7. Again, this is what you get. This is your consolation for winning in week 18 in a meaningless game against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is what you get. You miss out on guys that you might have had a shot to get. Again, I don't know if 5 would have gotten you there. Titans still would have been ahead of us more likely than not. So I don't know if you being at the 4th pick or whatever would have gotten you Love, but it would have put you in a better spot to get him. Or Bailey or any of these guys, Arvell Reese, all these guys would have been in striking distance. None of them feel like they are now. So all we can do is cross our fingers on Love and hope that people devalue the running back position. But I just think about it like this. And maybe Ashton Genty going at 5 to the Raiders last year and him not playing well benefits us. Recency bias, right? Prisoners of the moment. But it could also backfire on us like, hey, the Raiders took Ashton Genty at 5 and shit. This dude way better than him. So we should take him at 3 or we should take him at 4. That could be the rationale too. We'll see. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lang Hughes writes, Bane wins with power and bend. If he won with length, I'd be more concerned. Might be one of one. Who's had this arm length and this caliber of prospect? Look, DJ is trying to sell me on Bane, and I gotta watch Bane. Like, I'm just concerned, right? Because guys with his measurables do not excel at the NFL level on a consistent basis. It's not impossible for it to happen, but he keeps talking about tackles, and I don't think this is a great draft for offensive linemen. So him telling me that Bane is beating all these dudes doesn't move me, because I don't think this is an elite offensive line draft class anyway. But he's like, every guy that he studies that went against Miami, he said, in my notes, struggled with Bane. And he's like listing all of the guys. And it's impressive, I must say. And DJ went to bat for him. He's like, look, I can't unsee what my eyes saw with Cassius Howell and Ruben Bane. He's like, I didn't think their arm lengths would be as short as they ultimately were. I knew they were shorter armed players. I didn't think they were this short in terms of their arm length, but I can't unsee what I saw. They dominated in the SEC. That counts for something. Or in the case of Bane, he didn't dominate in the SEC. He dominated in the ACC, but when he played against SEC opponents and Big Ten opponents, he dominated them too. He dominated them too. So it is what it is, right? So we'll see. James LaRue, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, if we don't draft Love, listen to Eminem, No Love. I don't think he's going to get there. And if he does, there's still no guarantee that we draft him. I just want the chance. That, like, you know what I just give me the opportunity, let him be on the board, and then we can at least know our guy didn't want him. He opted to go in this direction. And then we can compare and contrast. If Love goes out to be and turns into what we think he's going to be, and the guy that we take turns out to be a dud, similar to the Gonzo Emmanuel Forbes situation, then that shit is on his jacket. That is in his file. It's on his sheet. We charging it to his account. That's why I want the option. GMT Dro, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Love or Styles, first pick. If not, who else? Oh, again, we're in a look, I don't love, pun intended, the number 7 pick, but I don't hate the spot that we're in. Okay. If we would have beat the Denver Broncos on that Sunday night, it could be a lot worse. That we could be 9th, or we could be, I think we're like 2 clear of the rest of the field. So I think we still would have been 7th. Because I think New Orleans ended up winning. I think New Orleans, what did we end up, 5-12? No. We ended up 5-12. So I think one more win might have put you tied with New Orleans and possibly Kansas City. I don't remember where those teams finished. I think Kansas City finished with 7 wins, but it could have been 6. Whatever the case may be. Another meaningless win could have put us even further back. I say that to say this. 7 isn't terrible. And you're either going to have Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Ruben Bane, who I'm not a fan of them taking, but one of those 4 guys is going to be available at 7. They all can't go. They all won't go. Because if they do all go, that means that somebody of the Arvell Reese or David Bailey ilk dropped. I mean, there's only 6 spots ahead of us, and one of them is already spoken for in Fernando Mendoza with the Raiders. So we already know that there's only 5 picks before us. Theoretically speaking, all 4 of those players could go, and a 5th could go, but that means somebody's still left. Always, when you're at a pick in the top 10, you make a list of players because one of them is going to be there. For us, you make a list of 7 guys. You put them in the order in which you would take them because one of those 7 is going to be there, right? So at the top of that list, it might be Arvell Reese, number 1. Well, he's not going to be there. Number 2 might be David Bailey, probably not going to be there. Number 3 might be Jeremiah Love. He could be there. Number 4 might be Sonny Styles. Number 5 might be Ruben Bain, right? Number 6 might be Caleb Downs. That's all you need. That's all you need is a list of 6 guys because you know Fernando Mendoza going number 1 overall. One of them 6 is going to be there. You put them in the order, and whomever is there at the top of your list, when you get to your pick, you take them. So we're in a good spot. We're going to come away with something. It may not be what I want, but we're going to come away with something. For me, it's Love in this order. It's Love 1, Styles 2, Downs 3, and then Bailey 4. Or excuse me, not Bailey. Bain 4. And I haven't even watched Caleb Downs yet enough to be, he might move up for all I know. But that's where I'm at with it right now. It's subject to change. Because I know I'm not getting David Bailey's at the top of the list. But I know we're not getting him. And I know we're not getting Arvell Reese, so I don't even talk about those dudes no more. Renell Winchester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Renell Winchester writes, if Giants take Caleb Downs, may we get Sonny Styles the other way around? Harbaugh says he wants the best player at pick 5. Happy with Caleb Downs. If they take Caleb Downs, then again, somebody else is going to fall in our lap. I don't anticipate Caleb Downs going before us. Like, if of all of the players that I just mentioned, Downs, Bain, Styles, Love, Reese, Bailey, of those 7, if you ask me who is most likely to be there, it is Caleb Downs. I'll be shocked if Caleb Downs isn't available for us to select at 7. Shocked. I won't be shocked if Jeremiah Love isn't there. I won't be shocked if Sonny Styles isn't there. I won't be shocked if Ruben Bain or Arvell Reese or David Bailey. As a matter of fact, Bailey and Reese, I expect to be gone. Not so sure about Bain. We'll see. I'm hoping somebody takes him before we get to 7. But I will be shocked if someone took Caleb Downs. It is a devalued position. He's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have tremendous size or any of that. I would be shocked if somebody took him ahead of us. Shocked. The Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, in my Lil Durk voice, it's all love. All love. Hopefully it is all love. Hopefully it is all love. I hope. Only one can hope, right? Jay Caroline, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, if we miss on Love, would you take Prices and what round? Would you take Price? He won't be there. Yeah, I'd take Jadarian Price, but he's not going to be there. He's a second-round running back. For sure, a second-round running back. We don't have a second-round pick. So, yeah. And yeah, no. He would be a great compliment to Bill if you wanted to go in that direction, but he won't be there. You need a second-round pick for that. He would have been right in the wheelhouse of where we would have been selecting if we had a second-round pick. He would have been there, but yeah, he won't be there by the time we come back around in the 3rd round. Money Shot, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Money Shot writes, hey, Lou, can't wait for you to study tape. Please don't get caught up in these underwear warriors. Lemon is a dog. I've heard that. And I told you, this isn't like, I'm just telling you what I saw yesterday. Don't get it twisted. I understand how this works. I know what it is. Lane play is lackluster. Wish we had a 2. So again, I'm just telling you what I saw yesterday. I got to watch the film. And what the film is going to tell me, like, trust me, everybody saying that Makai Lemon is a first-round pick. Nobody is saying that Jacoby Lane is. So I can't assume that because of what I saw at the combine that Lane is better than Lemon. That's not what I'm doing. All I'm telling you is I'm intrigued by him. The size, what he did, I need to see more. After I watch the tape, like you said, I'm probably going to come back to the same consensus that everybody else has, which is a Lemon is the dog and Lane is a 3rd-round pick. That I might not be all that disappointed and upset with if we took him in the 3rd round with our 3rd-round selection, assuming that we need another receiver. But, you know, that time is coming. It's right around the corner. You know, the film study is definitely about to go down. So we'll see what he looks like. I just know he killed it yesterday. That's all. Don't want to make too much of it, though. You rather him kill it than not kill it, right? Mr. Deacon, sir. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Deacon, sir, writes, even with a great combine, still not high on Reese. Great early with little to no tape and mid-comp. Then a no-show in big games, projection player. He's absolutely a projection player. I struggle with those. Just because he's a projection player doesn't mean he can't end up being a beast. I'm more of a productivity player. I like to see it with my own eyes so I can envision what it looks like at the next level. Again, a great example of that was last year with Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Similar type player, right? Off the ball backer who didn't rush a ton, but could rush. And how many sacks he ended up having? Let me stop spreading misinformation. Let me just look him up and see how many sacks he had in his rookie season. He had 5.5 sacks in his rookie season last year, Jalen Walker. All right. 2 forced fumbles in his rookie season. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it because that's not what they really asked him to do at Georgia. But they said, no, he's an athlete and he can rush the quarterback. And so I can't just say he can't because I didn't see it do it enough. I told you how I felt. I haven't watched enough of his film. And even the stuff that I have watched and the highlights people have shown me, a lot of it is him spying or him cleaning up a mess or him, you know, blitzing off ball or him running a little game up front where he twists inside and loops inside and is scot-free. And then you see the burst, right? But there aren't enough clips of him used because he don't have a move Rolodex right now. He don't use his hand. He don't do none of that stuff because that ain't what they asked him to do at Ohio State. If he gets taught these things, can he adjust and adapt to become the type of player that his talent suggests he can? You're going to have to be able to coach him up. I'm not the highest on Reese, but I understand what the talent looks like and what it could be. And I'm not oblivious and ignorant to the fact that he could turn into a real dog. I said this last year when the Eagles got the linebacker from Bama. Like, damn, everybody in the division got one of them dudes. That was before the Cowboys were stupid enough to trade away Micah Parsons. I'm like, everybody in the division got them some sort of athletic freak on defense at the linebacker position, basically, except us. I want one. I can't then turn my nose up at a Arvell Reese if we got a chance to take him. That's what you asked for. Well, here's your opportunity to get one. You can't turn your nose up at it. Same thing with Sonny Styles. Like, I asked for one of these dudes. And if you get a chance to get one, you got to take him. So I would take Love first over Styles. But I think I would take Arvell Reese over both of those guys. Just because edge rusher is a more important position than that of running back or linebacker. It's a premium position, which is why Bailey is ahead of everybody for me. But again, feels like an exercise in futility because we're not going to have a chance to select Arvell Reese or David Bailey. Again, Daniel Jeremiah in his mock draft, his latest mock draft, had us selecting Arvell Reese at 7, but that's because Daniel Jeremiah is doing his mock draft based off of sense and sensibilities, meaning he's doing the thing that makes the most sense. Oh, this team needs tackle help, so I'm going to draft a tackle. If that's how it worked, 90% of people's mock drafts would be correct. But that ain't how these teams think. A lot of these instances, they fall in love with a player or they take the best player available on their board. It don't have nothing to do with need. And so just because the Cardinals could use a tackle and the Browns could use a tackle, the chances are ain't neither one of them teams taking an offensive lineman. That's what the chances are ain't neither one of those two teams taking an offensive lineman. That's what he had in the mock draft, and that's how Arvell Reese fell to us. I doubt it. I highly doubt that. I think he had the Giants taking an offensive lineman and the Cardinals taking, I forget what position, and then the Browns took our offensive lineman. That shit ain't happening. Arvell Reese ain't falling to us. You're not wrong about him being a guy you got to project, though. But the talent suggests that he should project. We'll see. Reese Mander, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Shout out to Reese Mander. Smacky, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Smacky writes, how would you feel about trading out of the 7th pick? Depends on how far you're trading back. I wouldn't mind trading back to 8 or 9, depending on who's available. But again, I'm not in the business of trading away an opportunity to get a blue chip player. If you're trading away an opportunity to get an elite player, which again, if you told me that all the stuff that I wanted was gone, let's say Bain is the only guy left outside of course, Caleb Downs, because he's going to be there at 7. You tell me Bain and Downs are the only 2 left. Oh, I'm all for trading back. Of course. Who wants to come up, though? Does Kansas City want to come up for Bain? Maybe. With only 2 spots left in front of them, Bain and Downs could go right in front of them and they get nobody. Remember, Kansas City is going to lose a safety in free agency more likely than not as well, right? Seems like they lose a safety in free agency almost every year. This is a really good safety free agency class, and they do a really good job of drafting safeties and signing guys in free agency, and they play really well in Kansas City. So they can replenish, but they could also take Caleb Downs. I would trade back in that scenario, potentially, because I would know what Kansas City was, coming up to get. And then you just got to cross your fingers that the Saints would take a receiver at 8, some sort of skill position player, and leave Downs for you at 9. But if there's a bunch of that conglomerate of guys, Styles, Love, and all, I'm not trading back. I need the player. I don't need the picks. I need the player. So it just depends on what's available and how far back you asking me to go. Because if there's nothing there that I love, yeah, let me out of here. Get me out of here. But if you're telling me Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love still a bit, no. You got to pick somebody. You got to pick somebody. You got to pick one of those guys. Reese Mander, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, how you doing, Lou? I'm doing well. About yourself? He says, my college team is Georgia Tech, and I would love if we drafted my boy Eric Rivers. He's a steal in the later rounds. I thought he did some good things, at the receiver position. Let me see. I know he ran really fast. Let me see what he ended up running. He ran a 4.36. Yeah, he did some really good things. 5'10" and 1/8, 176 pounds. A little light, but he's a speed demon. We need that. I would have to watch the tape to see what he provide. Like, just because you fast don't mean you can track the football and things of that nature and actually be a deep threat. Is he in because you got some dudes, they run fast, but they run fast across the field. That was Jalen Lane, right? Virginia Tech, you never saw him get vertical. You only seen him running across the field, over routes, shallow crosses, things of that nature. He's not a true vertical threat. And, does he track the ball well, that sort of thing. But, he looked solid in the field drills for sure. So that's something that the team definitely needs, more speed. Daniel Pitts, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Daniel Pitts writes, Lou, seen a report Giants want Love at 5. Man, I hope that's not true. It's a lot you're going to see between now and April. You're going to see a lot of shit. A lot of shit. So you can't believe everything you read. I always tell you, believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. It's lion season, bro. You're going to hear everything under the sun between now and late April. Look, we are powerless when it comes to what happens in front of us. We can't control nor dictate any of that. Control the controllables. That's all we can do. If the Giants decide they want Jeremiah Love, then so be it. They got Jeremiah Love. There's nothing we can do about it. We decided to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in week 18. So we got what we got. We got what we got. Commander Lorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, beggars can't be choosers. Bane is an upgrade for real. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. And if they took him, I wouldn't be upset unless there were other guys that I felt like were better suited to become elite players in this league. Then I would be somewhat disappointed. But I just want a blue chip player. I'm not sure that Ruben Bain is that. Hey, look, you can't be sure about any of these guys, to be honest with you. You don't know if any of these guys are going to turn into. But from a traits perspective, he's the least certain. Certain is not a good word. He's the least likely to become one from a traits perspective. But again, not everything that glitters is gold. Just because Jeremiah Love was, almost a Heisman Trophy winner, and not because Sonny Styles went and blew up the combine and he looks like he was created in a lab, are these guys going to turn out to be all-pro NFL players? Might be the dude with the short arms that nobody wants to, or all of a sudden people have an issue with that turns out to be the all-pro. Bain is an upgrade without question. I can't turn my nose up at him. If we took him, I'd have to be fine with it. And I would be. Because it beats the alternative of what we already got. So, no, you're not wrong. Beggars can't be choosers. GMT Dro, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, love what you're doing with this. Hashtag Commanders Nation Media King. Hit the like button. HTTC. Shout out to the mob. Hey, appreciate you, man. We just getting started, man. I do this every year. We just getting started with this draft stuff. So we about to dive in deep. Daniel Pitts, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Daniel Pitts, double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, when you and the Kings doing stick to the model offseason, free agency, and draft, I think it's supposed to be this week. I never know these things. We don't discuss what we're going to talk about. We just kind of freestyle it every week. So I think it's supposed to be this week, to be honest with you. I guess I should ask them. Skins again. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, CCT, so glad you on the J Love train too. After watching what Gibbs did to us in 24, we need that shit, man. Hashtag where's the love? Hopefully it's here in Washington. Hopefully it's here in Washington. Where's the love? Hopefully it's here in Washington. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lang Hughes writes, the two tackles are high on a lot of big boards. They are. Like my Goa, I know that for sure. And I know that DJ has the Penn State offensive lineman is one of his higher graded offensive linemen in the draft. But again, where would those two be in drafts where they were a real elite offensive tackle prospect? I don't think they would be up there. I think they're the best of this draft. That doesn't mean they get drafted high. Now, again, offensive tackle, and I've said this before, is a premium position, and generally premium positions get pushed up. Offensive linemen get pushed up because every year teams need, it's never a draft where teams don't need offensive linemen. Much like quarterbacks, every year we see quarterbacks get pushed up because every year teams need quarterbacks. Every year teams need offensive linemen. So, yes, offensive line can get pushed up. We'll see. We will see. Now, won't we? Time will tell. Duncan Wright, thank you for being a member for 20 months. Says, hey, Lou, nobody cares. I beg to differ. There's 400 people watching right now. They must care. I'll subtract you from the equation. Even you care because you here. Love you too, Duncan. Love you too, man. Anyway, that was the last comment. So that completes the Combine 2026 NFL Scouting Combine now in the books and behind us, which means this offseason is about to hit hyperdrive. You hear all of the conversations. Kyler Murray's about to be released. The Dolphins are going to release Tua Tagovailoa, and you hear all the conversations about different teams and their quarterback situations. The Vikings are going to release two veterans, the defensive tackle and the running back, Aaron Jones. You know, a report came out today that it doesn't feel like Max Crosby is going to be back in Vegas. Everything's about to be accelerated because the Combine just hit. And so Bart Scott can't wait. Shit's heating up, man. Shit is heating up. The Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, I'm going to wait till you wait. Lou, I'm going to wait till you wait. Okay. I see what you're trying to say. You're killing me, Smalls. I'm going to wait until you watch the tape on Bane. His bend and power are different, plus that motor. I know about the motor. I'm a Hurricanes fan, so I've seen it. College football. I watched. I saw it with my own eyes. I just need to watch it consistently over and over again to be able to really appreciate it. But I know what I saw. I watched him in multiple games to know that this guy is legitimately the truth. You know what I mean? So I don't disagree. It's just think there are other guys that would give us a better chance of having that blue chip player. That's all. He may ultimately be the pick, man. I have to wrap my brain around that because there's a chance that Jeremiah Love isn't there. I still think Sonny Styles is going to be there, though. And if he is, give me Sonny Styles. Give me Sonny Styles. Haval, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Haval writes, Louie Lou, what up, Haval? You know how damn depressed I'm going to be if Bailey, Titans, Reese, Jets, Styles, Giants, and Love, Saints trade are off the board by the time we pick. I ain't trying to pick Bane or Downs at 7. I need you to start wrapping your brain around the prospects of one of those two being a commander. You shouldn't be upset if either one of them are Commanders, especially if all of those players that you said are gone off the board are gone. If those players are gone, those are your options. You could do a hell of a lot worse. You could do a hell of a lot worse. So I may feel totally different once I've watched the film. So I got work to do. I got work to do. I gotta work. I gotta work. I got a job, baby. Oh. I got work to do. So I'm gonna get busy so I can start to be able to tell y'all how I really truly feel about these prospects. But I think I got an idea, but I need to see it with my own too. All right. So now I've got all my working tools in front of me now. I got all the information I need, all the guys that I'm dying to watch on tape. Now I just got to go and get busy. So that's going to start to happen. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine Recap. All 4 days. It was a long weekend, but we finally arrived at the end. And now this offseason is really about to begin. So even though I know I don't have the podcast up and running yet, we got to talk ball, man. Like, it's too much shit happening. Kyler Murray, like I just brought up, Kirk Cousins getting released, Tua about to get released, Max Crosby might be traded, the A.J. Brown saga in Philadelphia. It's just too much shit going on right now for me to not just be talking about all this other stuff. So I'm going to have to find a platform for that until I can get my podcast up and running. Got to get my damn tower fixed, man. Anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one, and I will see you guys next time. We off and we running. The combine is done. Now, the fun begins. You guys take care. God bless. Peace.